Hello folks, this is my grandpa and grandma, Bert and Effie Waylett. I knew those folks real well, had a lot of great times together. There's my grandpa Jim when we were up in the mountains with the horses. Really happy times. There's Grandma Lozo. She was always at her very most contented out in the mountains picking huckleberries. All these old faded photographs will introduce something that I'm obligated to pass on to you all. That's a strong sense of family, a great respect for the outdoors and the enjoyment of it, hunting and fishing, the good times at home. All of this I want to pass on to you as family occasions that we treasure the most, especially being together and being outdoors. This is just some of the Waylett family album. There's one of my best hunting partners, little Mitch, and an Annie Marr, and we got a big old rooster in bag. There's that kid again with a duck. Always a smile, really a happy boy. This is down on the Salmon River with Uncle Fred and Vic Hangus. A lot of years ago, just after I got out of the Army, I think. We went down there for a salmon fishing trip early in the spring. Spent one of the coldest nights ever, but the old mountaineer Fred really got the worst of it. That fire you saw us in front of it probably had been going since 10 o'clock at night and long into the next day. Vic's an old buddy of mine that goes clear back through grade school days. One of the first friends I made right after we moved to Missoula from Paradise. Uncle Fred's long gone now, but he sure passed a lot of the good things on to me too. Good times, a lot of laughs. Truly an outdoorsman, a good woodsman. Now, there's some ducks up on the flathead at Nine Pipe. I hope you can excuse all the testing and trials that I made with photography here, trying to learn how to become a good movie cameraman. And although all these films have been stored away a long time, I don't really think I ever made the grade to be a cinematographer. Of course, now everything's changed. Thanks to Hank and his video cam, which is the technology of today, all these things can come together so you can see them on your TV. And it was with a lot of effort to get it here too, I might add. Look at those old geese down at the Buffalo Park. That was over 30 years ago as I speak to you now. Makes you wonder if any of those old folk are still alive. Now there's some taking off down on the Flathead River. Here I was trying out the slow motion. I guess you can see the quality of the film after all these years with all the spots and scratches, and you'll see it miss cogs and jump track and flutter and splash at you here and there. But I hope you find tidbits like an old scrapbook that you can enjoy a little bit. There's a red-headed duck taking off up there by Nine Pipe. A couple more. Yeah, there's a couple decided to land. Now these pictures here are kind of indistinct because they were, of course, taken through the water. This isn't just jumpy hands. These are steelhead salmon up the Lochsa. Now the reason I put these in here after having that little caption with Fred and Vic and I on the Salmon River is I was attempting to fool him after I got the films developed, to show him all the steelhead that the camera captured in the water that we somehow missed getting a bite on. But anyway, I know you see a lot of blotches and this and that, but believe me, some of those long straight things that you see out there in the water that look like sticks are steelhead. And they run from, I guess, 2.5 to 3 feet long. There'll be some better pictures of them here close in. Even as bad as the old movie film was. Whoops. You can still see the color a bit better on the film than you can on the video. But I think I can agree this is a better place to have it so that we can all enjoy it. Here's some a little closer up. That's a pretty good one there. Believe it or not, he was almost underfoot. The spawning season used to really be spectacular in the Lochsaw. After all these years, I don't know how it is now. That's a pretty good picture on there. That's kind of close. Isn't that water clear and nice? Nice splash. Well, there we are back on the Salmon River, so you can see the little joke I was trying to play on Fred. We didn't catch any, and the joke didn't work either. Now, some of you, as you go through this strip, will see our kids grow up and then start over and grow up, and a new face added once in a while. All of this was outdoor, backcountry scenery and animals and trips. There's some mule deer down there in the river no return. Well, anyway, in case you can't figure out how I edited all these together to put all the wildlife and outdoor scenes together when they really didn't come out in sequence. And then at the end, add 2 trips to Arizona. Well, if you can't quite get it, I can't either. It gives me a headache now, years and years later, to figure out what the logic was. I know there must have been some logic. There is an old bull elk that was walking across the slope, getting down out of the snow just the evening that we left the South Fork, headed back toward the Bitterroot. No fish. No sleep for Fred, and Vic and I having a lot of laughs. Now there's Mar hustling out with the trout fishing gear for Dad, and you can see a lineup of 3 falcons there. Hank's in front, and then Dad's, and then mine. Here we are out taking a check on the stream, getting a look at the water. You know, these spring fishing trips from my grandparents all the way down to me, and I hope on to you, were truly something special, and spent a lot of time waiting for her through the winters in Montana. Couldn't wait to get out there. And thank God sometimes we get out a little early, and she was a little wet and chilly. There's Dad getting the stuff ready. Hank, Melba, Audrey, and there's Grandma. little rain coming down, she always said, "Now don't you take my picture." There's my mom doing one of her favorite things. That was a cat, I think, a place over on the South Fork of the Jocko. Here's my dad. I believe this is along the Bitterroot. Here I am, a grandpa myself. Here's some bass. And my little young fishing partner, Mitch. Yeah, I got grandchildren that look just about like that guy. Been a grandpa for some time now. Consider Annie and Chrissy, Justin and Austin. Lift them up there, son. Yeah, not a bad bunch of bass. Fishing's still good like that, I guess, a 9-pipe. Here we are out on the Oregon coast, visiting Nancy's folks, and had a time to go down along there to do some surf fishing. Got there in the early morning in particularly stormy weather at sea. And I can remember with Nancy and Mitch and Jewel, we took this trip down along the coast from Beaverton on out to the Tillamook and then down to Boiler Bay and Depot Bay and back. On this particular morning, all I can remember Jewel, Nancy's mom, saying, "Now don't you get out there too far, the undertow is going to get you." I heard more about undertow that day than ever in my life. Of course, didn't get me, thankfully. Yeah, it's kind of wet. Beautiful big surf. Still got that spinning gear, worked just fine. That's my old meat getter salmon pole. There's the big catch, little rock sculpin. And here's some pictures of Boiler Bay. And as I say, on that particular day, there was a tremendous storm at sea, and I guess we heard later that some larger cargo boats or ships got in trouble out there. You see that little beast fluttering around on the bottom of the film there? That's not a wild animal, that's just some of the fuzz and lint that came along with movie film that's been stored away for about 30 years. This really is an impressive piece of coastline. I've been back there since, and on the rock pinnacle or point to the left there, where it used to be barren and uneven, they now build a driveway out there and kind of a park. And a lot of people must come down there. Beautiful country. Look at the power. Awesome. This is Depot Bay down on the Oregon coast. Beautiful little place, but a terrible race to get under the highway and out through some teeth into the ocean. This is the result of a nice shad fishing trip on the Willamette there in Portland. Some neighbors across the street from Jewel named Mel Sethman and his wife. Here we are out on a salmon excursion, and thank God to Nancy's Uncle Chuck. He got me into salmon fishing and was generous enough to take me out a number of times while I was out there at Lewis in the Army. And most of those things you see are birds, except for that one little cloud of lint on the lens of the projector. There's some of the boats tied up at Ilwaco, the place we like most to fish from. Here we are underway early in the morning. Wonderful experience, and I guess I have a special fondness for the ocean. I don't know where it came from, but maybe inland folks feel that way. There's part of what they call the Puker Fleet. The bunch of charter boats all untied and on their way out. Uncle Chuck's way back there in the corner. That's a good spot on the boat, you know. Here we are adrift on the swells, doing what you call mooching. Letting the water carry your bait up and down, and there's a guy with the fish on. Now this mooching is kind of slow and monotony. The engine sits idle and you just kind of drift up and down and let the herring work underneath the water. It's real good for fishing, but a lot of people's stomach can't stand it. Now there's a nice Chinook somebody got on there. Good fish. The nets are flying. There's a pretty quick little thing, look like a silver. Yeah, there they are. All laid out on the boat. I think I got a couple of them someplace. That's what you call fresh fish. Yep, and we're on our way in. And giving the excess to the birds, and they sure deserve it. Beautiful things on the wing. Now back at Ilwaco, beside Chuck's old Ford, got a couple of nice silvers there. Pretty proud of that. Now here we are back in Montana, the KO Ranch Rodeo. Now this took place for a number of years up in a kind of a natural amphitheater in the Miller Creek Valley behind Missoula. I suppose right now this whole thing is all gone and probably a complete village here. And one of the reasons why we went up there was not just to enjoy the springtime outing with the rodeo folk, but there was a special event here with a bucking horse by the name of Trail's End. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That guy said, I'm pretty smart. Watch me ride him sideways. Trail's End was a bucking horse. I think it had a reputation and never been rode. Of course, he's long gone now. But hope to have a chance to show him here. Maybe I can point him out to you. Guy said, God, the horse thought I had that calf, but I missed. Oops. Now there's a pretty good shot. Yeah, it wasn't real championship time. Now watch this. Kerbang. Missed. Try him again. Kerpow. Now right here's one of the toughest calves in all of show business. Tore the horse down, beat the cowboy up, and my God, I bet you he won't be back there again. Now there's a pretty good bucker. This guy said, want to see me try her backwards? Oops. There's a pretty good rider there. Whoa, got a rough start. Quick finish. This guy's tuning her backwards too. He said if one guy can do it, I can. That's when they had a lot to drink the night before and couldn't tell the front end of the back one. There's a pretty good bucker. I guess that guy rode him too. Try that calf again. Missed. Darn. Whoa. Pretty fancy horse. Not a bad cowboy. He said, I'm going to just run you down here 100 miles an hour and then buck you off. Didn't. There's Trail's End, right there. Guy's trying to hang loose. Little bulldogging contest there. I think the bull won. Here we are over there in Portland. This is the Portland Zoo. There's my partner Mitch. One sleepy lion. Another mountain lion in the brig. A couple of polar bears, and a few years after we took these pictures, some hippie that had escaped the closing of the zoo for the night crawled into the polar bear's cage and decided that was a comfortable place to go to sleep, and was eaten up by the bears. And of course, instead of praising the bears, they had to put them away. Thank God they don't do stupid things like that anymore. They should have given them a reward, I think. Or at least taken to the hospital to see if they'd gotten stomach poison from eating a filthy guy like that. Here's the little gentle folks in tuxedos. Always like to see the penguins. Pretty tired, entertaining all day. Friend's a grizzly bear. There are a couple of Kodiak bears just getting out of their winter fur coats. You know, I guess we can all appreciate the animals we see in zoos, and probably if it weren't for zoos, we would have never seen a lot of these marvelous creatures. And I guess today it may even be a fact that zoos are saving some of these that elsewhere might not survive in the wild. But frankly, I never have liked to see this very much. It just bothers me inside to see animals in cages and spend their whole lives behind the bars for crimes they didn't commit. Now that's an injustice. There's a llama taking it kind of easy. Our friends the elephants. I guess they've overhauled this zoo by now to try to make a better place, a little more natural for these folks. Now that old bobcat wasn't in the Portland Zoo. He was up here at Sula on one of our trips as we worked our way out of Montana, heading south for some kind of a family excursion. You'll see the screen black out here in a minute when he gives me one of his champions. Snarled, he jumped at me. Yeah, this is back in the Salmon River country. That odd, abstract-looking thing there really is a part of a cave along the river or road down the Salmon River. And those things up there are Indian writings. Here's something really special to me. That's little Ty's first steps. I don't know why he waited so long to get clear down on the Salmon River on a spring day to take his first steps, but he did a good job. Way up there on those rocks, right in the center of the camera, yeah, you might see a couple of little white specks. Those are young mountain sheep. And of course, considering that they might be a real challenge to photograph, I took off with the camera straight up through those rocks, hunting those animals, and I didn't know it, but they in turn were hunting me. So as I was struggling to get up there, they were winding their way down to see what kind of an idiot was running around loose. Well, the thing worked out pretty good. The harder I worked, the closer they got. And ultimately here, with a lot of jumping and bumping on the camera lens caused by overstressed heart pounding, you might even see some pretty good pictures of these young fellers. Here's one. Nice skyline shot. There's another. Almost looks like they're posing. Interesting animals. Makes you wonder what they're thinking. There he is, right on the rock above me. Here they come. While I'd struggled to get up there after them, I looked down below me in the little canyon there where took off 3 mule deer. Kind of an added opportunity, but it used up enough film so that the best of it all was right at the tail end, naturally. That's a pretty good pose. Well, anyway, now here we are up at Hank's Ranch. There's the mom and dad and Ma and Audrey and Hank and Melba and little Tony and Grandma and Howard and Claudia, and look at here. There's a little guy that resembled somebody else so much. There's a lot of hand talk, heavy duty serious. Hi, Nance. There's that old shack. Jesus, that gave us shelter through some wonderful times. Hard ones and easy ones, nice mess of fish over and over again. Always plenty to eat, and something about it was always special. There's Melbourne, Claudia. Nice spring day. Wonder who that guy is. Hey, stop wiggling here. My God, he looks like somebody I know real well. And they all, yeah, pretty tired boy. Well, it was an attempt at some pictures over on the Big Draw where Dad was raised. As you can see, it's a good thing we put these together when we did, because it looks like almost everything was about to break down and go to pieces right there in the can. Here's one of my favorite pictures of the Flathead River. The Big Draw, or the Horseshoe Bend, I mean. Good fishing spot too. And going back to my grandparents and Dad and the rest, we've all had some wonderful fishing trips on that river. So I guess when it comes to family and kids and places, it's nice to see those things again because they really are special. Here's an outing that we took up South Fork of Lolo Creek. Just got out there and roughed it for a while. Ty and Mitch, Nancy. I think I made Ty a little hammock underneath the table we put together out there. Geez, it was a nice spot and we sure enjoyed ourselves. And here's something special. Mitch up at Kicking Horse. Got a fish on. And there's Ty with his first fish. And usually with a gigantic fish like that, a guy does need some help to land him, especially if it's your first one. Pretty proud of that boy, both of them. Mitch is kind of nonplussed. He said, I'm going back after a bigger one. And there's a nice lunch under all the shade you find at Kicking Horse. Still shady like that, not a tree in sight. This is a trip up in Lewis and Clark Caverns. A little side jaunt. I think at the time we were on our way to making tracks down south to our first trip to Phoenix. That's part of that real steep incline railroad there that takes the tourist cars up the mountains. You can get an idea there how steep it is. Here's some of the interior, although it's kind of hard to photograph. There's a skull rock. This was after I joined IBM in Helena, and there's some friends of ours, Don and Todd Myrie, when we took the kids for an outing on the weekend down along the Boulder River. Had a little picnic down there and went crazy with all the mosquitoes. Todd quit IBM a few years after this, after I had moved to Phoenix. Tragedy came to his family, as happens to all of us. Don, his wife, and little girl were in a serious traffic accident, and the girl was killed, and Donna had permanent brain damage. Never recovered her senses, and so it is with life. Now there's a new face. What a little kid she is. Hi, baby. Pretty classy young lady, don't you think? And she liked the bath a lot. Of course, she didn't like to show off that much under the movie lights. I guess of all the things that are true about our family is that we sure love our kids. Look at that little guy back there looking on. That sure could be Mr. Justin. Family adventure. And first we get a shot at one of my favorite views of the missions. Something I always remember and think about, no matter where I am. There's the family. Grandma, Hank, some of the mission range as we're passing over the mountains for a real hunting trip. This is something that a lot of people only take by themselves, but of course, being the kind of folk we are, we made a family venture out of this by visiting Dick Lodmill's uncle, that's Marlene's ex-husband, who had a farm up by Choteau, and he sponsored our visit up there to hunt geese this fall. Now, my big boy Mitch, as I recall, was homesick at Helena with a real sore throat, so the little guy pinched hit for him and did a real good job. There's little Tony, and there's Dick Lodmill. There's Dick's uncle, Hank. Here's my partner. Grandma and young Tony. Hank and Melba. There's the convoy of falcons and Rambler. Now, I know a lot of things are masked out with the skyline here, but what we wanted to show you are the flocks of geese that we were scouting. There's Hank's good little dog. God, she had a lot of hunting heart, that dog. Anyway, the idea here was to try to show you the flocks of geese that flew over in clouds of white that were almost unbelievable. You'll get a glimpse of a few of these, but I'll have to admit, all of this photography isn't very distinct. At least the effort was there. The swarms of these geese were unimaginable. There's some kind of close in. Now, the whole idea here was to take advantage of their habit of feeding in grain fields for probably 2 days and then moving to another. So out here we were trying to get an idea of where they would land to feed so that maybe we could be there the next day at the same time. And we had a pretty good plan, and to some extent it worked out fairly well. These kinds of snow geese, they were a sight to behold. Truly awesome. Beautiful. And the racket they make and the thrill they give you when they're overhead and you're shivering under a sheet, hiding and waiting. It's truly an experience you can't forget. There's some. No, I guess those are trumpeter swans. Yep. Well, they tag along with the big flocks too, or the flocks tag along with them. And there's the result of the outing, although it was kind of sad. The 2 geese that we got that day had both been wounded and were diseased or infected, so we couldn't eat them. Now look at this little face. Guess what she's got in her hand? A crawdad. Picked him right up and said, "That's quite a little guy." Now, of course, her big brother has an interest in crawdads too, but it's not quite as enthusiastic as hers is. There he is. Now, the idea here is to get Mitch acquainted with crawdads that we got in the cups there, and so I told him the one that's out there on the log, I'd like to have you pick him up, put him in the cup. Good job, son. Now, maybe for the camera you could kind of take one out of one cup and put him in the other. He said, "Well, I can do that by just pouring them here, can I?" Well, we wouldn't get to see him very well Well, go ahead. Do it like baby does it. You got one of them going there. How about another one here? Just about. Well, they got out there anyway, and there they are, so maybe you can pick them up and get them back in. But you can get them up a little closer, yeah. We had come up to Hauser Dam this day to see if we could throw out there and catch a couple of fish in the springtime, and no luck with that, but we did see some of these crawdads down in the water crawling out on the rocks, so I picked a few of them up with a spinner, and see, with the littlest things we managed to have some fun anyhow. Here's Hauser Dam. Of course, when you've been picking up crawdads all day and getting your hands dirty from those things, you always should wash your hands off pretty good. Of course, that's just about the exact same water those crawdads came out of. But it never does any harm not to take chances. Now you see here, this is a year later at almost the same spot. That little face has grown up and she's a-walking and falling down. Old baby always enjoyed running more than walking, and she scared up a little cottontail rabbit there someplace. Here he is. Hey, she's got a pop. She said, "You want to drink, Dad?" Old Ty picked her a nice little bouquet of flowers. She said, "You want to smell?" She said, "Ty, you throw rocks, I can throw some too. That's fun." That's a pretty big rock there. Well, this is part of the extended adventure and back to the coast for a salmon fishing trip, and this time I got to take my family out. Mar and Audrey and Mom, Nancy, Dick Lodmell, and there's Uncle Chuck. He's been the sponsor of these things for a lot of years. See that old guy there? I made him real sick. I don't understand it. He just couldn't tolerate the thought of carrying hot gravy in a thermos jug and eating peanut butter sandwiches at sea so that they taste as good coming up as they did going down. Reason he got sick, though, over a little idle chat like that is that he took Audrey's place in the corner of the boat. And I decided I was either going to make him too sick to fish or throw him overboard when we got out there. Now there's Mom giving it her best shot, and Uncle Chuck, and Audrey. Now we're out there mooching, and I think that day Audrey and Nancy had a little trouble keeping their stomach in rhythm with the boat bouncing up and down. I don't know whether this color's coming out real good, but you might see a little tinge of green around their gills there. Mom landed a fish, and look at there, a nice ocean perch. You know, it really doesn't make much difference what kind of fish they are. Babe had one there. Nancy's giving it hell. Some of that catch of salmon. So we didn't get skunked that day at all. Not bad. There's Dick Lodmell and Audrey, the second day out. We used to fish the Mary Ellen, a real good stable boat. Good skipper. Here they are. The nets are flying again, and my God, look at the pukers out there. Now that's what I call good mooching water, see? Here's Dick bringing something aboard for Marlene. Yep, she caught her crab. Well, here we are back at Helen enjoying a little winter sport.